This is a super very impromptu recording. I just have the uncontrollable urge, as Devo might call it, to record. So I was eating rice, and I think I overcooked the rice a little too much, and so it was dry. Lesson learned. Not all of it was dry, but it was a little drier than normal. Usually I'm able to make it pretty moist. And I can't tell if there's a piece of rice behind my permanent retainer or if I bent the retainer itself. I've had this thing for like 16 years, and it would be incredible if I just now bent it. But it's so uncomfortable. I guess that's how tectonic plates feel when they go through movement over time and start budging into each other. My teeth are slowly moving, and my dentist goes to my church and told me that I need to see an orthodontist because I have, I guess, a little bit of an overbite. It's so frustrating, but that's what happens when we live in a fallen world with broken bodies. Yes, your body is broken. My body is broken. Have you ever noticed how you feel pain about things? Have you ever noticed if you go rock climbing, how you might rip up your hands and it hurts? Yeah, because there's pain. Have you ever noticed when you get a lot of pain and then you start saying, my head hurts a lot? That's called a headache. That means that your head is aching. I long for the day when there will be no pain and suffering and aching, and I am hopeful and I am glad in that day because 2 days ago I celebrated Easter, and I believe that Easter is the representation of Jesus defeating death when he arose from the grave and defeated death and sin. And by doing so, there would be no pain and suffering. For he died for the sins of the world, the whole world. And if he was just a great, great, great moral teacher, then woe is me, and woe are millions and billions of people who believe that he is reigning at the right hand of his Father in heaven, and that he has bestowed his Spirit to all of those who believe in him and calls them saints. Wow. The season of Lent is over. It's been 4 months since the last recording, and I thought it would be a cool idea if I not only gave you, but more importantly, gave myself at least one recording every month. So I'm 4 months into the year, and I haven't recorded once, so maybe I can do some catching up over the next 8 months. I think I can do that. I think that's a pretty good goal. That is a pretty good goal. It's no longer freezing time. So basically what that means is the garden is ready to be sown with seeds or the seedlings that I've started in the basement. I've started a bunch of things from peppers to flowers. Yeah, peppers to flowers and some other things. I actually have a picture here on my phone. Let me tell you what that consists of. Oh, hey, by the way, here's a picture of one of my New Zealand ferns in its very, very infant stage. It is no longer in I think it's called the prothalli stage. Let's Google that. Prothalli stage is usually the gametophyte stage in the life of a fern or other pteridophyte. Yeah. So anyway, Lent. Yeah, Lent, the season of Lent is over. I don't need to go into every single detail that runs through my mind, John Michael. But the reason I brought that up is because the main thing that I gave up for Lent, that I typically give up every year and have for I don't know how many years now, is coffee, because I love coffee. Coffee is really good. I could honestly live without it, but there's something truly joyful in the ritual of making coffee and then drinking it. And this morning, I got breakfast with my friend Nathan and drank some coffee, actually a lot of coffee. And I remember a pastor once saying that the Holy Spirit plus caffeine equals awesome. And I think that's true. Because I've had a whole bunch of cool thoughts today. And that's part of the reason that I'm here talking right now. It's because I was like, oh, hey, let's talk. It'd be a good, nice thing to do before decompress. Or a nice thing to do to decompress before I go to bed. Imagine if I did that every night. Yeah, springtime. What else has happened? What are the first big things that come to the top of my head? There's my acting class, the Meisner, compressed Meisner Conservatory, which has been really stretching of my mind and very challenging to my morals, actually. So if you're listening, you can talk to me about that, but if not, whatever. It's been really weird. There are definitely places that I don't want to go to, but I understand why I'm learning about them, which is great because God is helping me through it. Plants, rock climbing. I've been rock climbing a bunch. I went rock climbing with my friend Spencer last night. Spencer's pretty cool. Shout out Spencer. Hey Spencer, thanks for climbing last night and being patient with me on that route that I climbed, that 512, that beautiful, very challenging route. That might have been the most challenging route that I've ever done, because for probably 10 to 15 minutes, I think he said 6 minutes, I was really just trying to reach this thing, make this move and try different tactics to progress to the next step of the route. I definitely took a lot. What taking means is the person who's belaying you takes all of your weight so that you can rest on the wall so you don't have to start over completely. It's like a checkpoint. It's really, really cool, actually. If you've played a video game ever. Oh, that's another thing. I had an audition for this video game, motion capture video game, and I thought it would be really cool if I got that role. I haven't heard back anything, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. It's okay. It's in the past. It's behind me. I'm not latched on to it in any way. Just the thought is really cool of, oh, hey, there's John Michael, but he's in a video game. He looks all characterized and digitized, but I'm going to play the game as him. Or I'm going to play the video game as myself. That'd be cool. But what that makes me think of is the reason that we're here. And the reason that we're here is to experience life. And there are zillions, millions, zillions. Is that even unlimited? Let's just say unlimited. There are unlimited reasons for you to enjoy life. I texted my friend the other day, actually, asking him, why is life worth living? I texted him that Sunday night at 11:33 p.m., right before I went to bed, because life is hard, and every now and then you have one of those hard moments where you just stop and think, and I think that's good. Speaking of stopping and thinking, if you are just joining, this podcast is a personal and therapeutic tool I call a vocal diary. It's a space for me to process my thoughts, explore stories, and post them for those who might be interested, hopefully inspiring someone. I'm not doing this for any type of social gain or to be a better human. I'm just doing it to help me work through my life. Episodes 1 and 2 talk about who I am, so give them a listen if you haven't. A quick disclosure that going on tangents may or may not be involved, as you so obviously can tell, this show is conversationally true to how I speak. Quick shout out to EDC Crate. I actually thought of you today because I put some cologne on my sweatshirt and I couldn't smell it, which means the bottle is pretty much empty. If the coupon code is working, I believe you can use coupon code GQT 15%. If it's not there, I apologize. Here we go. To when trying to do things you used to do seems out of reach. Ooh. And the key word for this was discipline. I told someone today or yesterday that I don't believe in random coincidences. I believe that everything happens for a reason. God knew from the beginning of time, since I was a twinkle in his eye, before the creation of the world, that I would struggle with certain things. One of those things being discipline. Oh, good grief. Is this a good grief? Is this grief good? Yes, it is, because we're working through it. I'm tired. The caffeine's pumping through my veins. I was very bitter for the last at least 6 months. I'm probably going to say the end of July or maybe September to maybe a month ago. Without going into detail, I'm no longer bitter. But then I discovered that I was really annoyed with a lot of things. Like a lot of things. And like the ebbs and flows of life, you go through moments feeling kind of lost. I think it really struck home when I was working in the garden, sprayed all the weeds to kill them. My, oh my, were there a lot of weeds. It was disgusting. But they weren't deep. I mean, they were maybe 5% of them were deeper than others, but they weren't hard to pick out at all. And then once I picked out all of them, tilled the soil. If you don't know what tilling means, it's when you break apart the soil that's been compacted from rain and heat and dryness, and it just settles. So you're basically loosening it up. It's like when I did that, there was simultaneously this breath of fresh air in my soul. And all of a sudden, that plus a lot of things reminded me of discipline. It's really awesome that I'm talking about this today because I've been thinking about this a lot today, and it just so happens I'm recording this topic today, and I did not plan any of that to happen today, but God knew it would happen. So the garden, the weeds, plucking them out, I remembered how, 10 months ago, I had this grand sense of peace in my heart. This grand sense of awe and wonder. And then it just got covered up and compacted and trampled on, and I couldn't breathe at all. Which was very, very sad. But that's life. That happens. It's unfortunate, but it's part of growth. Pull out many, many lessons from that. But that seemed so out of reach because I would always question, is this thing gone? Am I supposed to be moving on from it? Or is it key and vital to who I am as a person? Is it super important? So I'm glad I am where I'm at today because I feel like the Lord has revived my heart. And really the kick in the pants, the good kick in the pants, was just 2 nights ago. Not 2 nights ago, but the day after 2 nights ago, I started realizing this is worth living for. This is worth living for. Oh, this is the reason life is worth living. So I'm super happy for that. But every now and then, there are things that try to creep into the garden, and they cross the boundary, and I've just got to lovingly and patiently push it away. So a key lesson is that you cannot do something fully. If something feels out of reach, something that you used to do that you no longer do, if that seems out of reach, don't just move on. If something's worth fighting for, fight for it until you get it. I mean, if it is truly not yours and you don't deserve it, then you should leave it alone. But that is part of who God made me to be. And it had truly been so difficult over the last year when I said, am I becoming a cookie cutter Christian? I love all my brothers and sisters. I do. I love the fact that we know a lot of things. We know a lot of truth. But at the same time, I know who God made me to be, and He wants me to live out who I am, which is not the cookie cutter definition of not just a Christian, but of like having the American dream. That's probably a more easily understandable example, is the American dream of having a big, good job and a big house and a big family and a dog and a cat and a fish and a big, big lawn and having absolutely no problems. Those things are actually really good. But like my friend said from Albania, Nayanan Drusha, which means we are different, and there's beauty in our differences. Life would be very boring if we were all the same. And I don't even think in heaven we're all going to be the same. We're all going to have the same general understanding, declaring that Jesus is Lord. But we're going to all be doing different things in heaven. We're going to have different work to do. Things are going to be restored like they were in the Garden of Eden. And I look forward to that day. And I'm excited to know that God will be with me from this point now all the way through eternity, which doesn't have an end. There are certain things of our past that may feel out of reach that we miss doing, but are they actually part of who we are? Or is it something we selfishly want to keep? Like, oh, I want to drink out of a baby bottle every day. No, actually I don't, because I'm not a baby that was designed for babies, and I'm not a baby. I'm a man who drinks out of water bottles. My body is bigger than the body of a baby. So that's actually out of reach. It reminds me of when Jesus had his confrontation with Nicodemus in John 3, which leads up to John 3:16. So physical rebirth is out of reach, but spiritual rebirth is not out of reach. And the only way that one can do that is through Jesus Christ. Jesus also said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." So I had noticed that I started to become less and less of myself. And that was really sad, because that person that I knew seemed like he was fading, and he had true joy and peace in the Lord. And as I said, it's like the soil of his heart was getting trampled on. So he needed a fresh breaking of the ground. And maybe that's one of the beautiful reasons that God told Adam to work the soil. Because in a way, it's like there was life in that. And doing that for me, and maybe Adam, it was a way to feel connected to God. But it's like the breaking of the ground was a reminder of who God is, of where God is, of the goodness of his heart. And for Eve, the labor pains being a reminder that one day there would be no pain. I'm testing the recording microphone device.